Hello, this is C.W. Karstens from Games Under Construction podcast. We're currently here with Ian Cooper, designer of Ascending Empires, published by Z-Man Games. So the focus of the podcast, of course, is the kind of the prototype, early stages of board game design. So we're here to talk with Ian about some games he has in that stage. So thank you for joining us today, Ian. So what games are you currently working on? Like, what kind of rough prototypes are you focusing?
So I have two games that I'm working on right now in the design phase. I've got a children's game that I'm working on a children's game, and I've got another game that uses some of the same ideas, a few of the same concepts that I used in Ascending Empires, but brings in a whole different set of mechanics and systems, and does not have flicking in that one. But I actually wanted to do a game that was captured a lot of the really things I loved about Ascending Empires, but was more accessible. A lot of people really love the game, but the flicking aspect of the game turns some people off, like before they even try the game.
Right, so they consider it they just dismiss it because it's a dexterity game versus a real strategy game, even though it's got components of both.
Yeah, I mean, it's far more of a strategy game than it is a flicking game. I mean, but there are people that won't even try it because they think, oh no, I'm going to be really bad at this because it's flicking. Or they just think, it's like this is more of a kid's game, but it really isn't. I mean, it's got tech trees and resource management and all that stuff. So, and it's very clever in a lot of other ways. But so I wanted to bring those things over to a game that captured a lot of things I really love about Ascending Empires, but was more accessible, to a general audience.
Right. So slightly more of a traditional aspect in a game versus this dexterity crokinole style that was pulled in with Ascending Empires?
Well, okay, so one thing I realized about the flicking mechanic, especially in Ascending Empires, was that really it was a push your luck mechanic. Planets in Ascending Empires are usually about 3 inches apart to 4 inches apart, and if you want to go from one planet to another planet, you just lightly touch the disk and you'll get your starship there. But you have, if you have a planet on the other side of the map that you really want to get to, you're going to have to put more pressure. You have to flick harder to get there, and chances of you getting exactly where you want really, really drop. So that kind of created this whole idea of I can capture that in a more push your luck mechanic, where the farther you want to go, the more risk there is. Still keep the dynamics of the system. Still keep it very really feeling similar in the flicking kind of real free-form movement, but not do it with flicking. Do it with more push your luck.
Okay, and so you say push your luck element. Is that the core mechanic? Can you go any deeper into what this?
So it uses a dice mechanic for moving, but it uses the dice as a resource that you can spend in any way you want. So you can. So there's a dogfighting aspect in this game. This is actually, I really like this. I was really, really struggling to come up with a mechanic for Ascending Empire. For this game. This game, it's a fantasy-based civilization building, kind of 4X style game, except it's based in a fantasy world. And instead of like starships, you have dragons, and you're basically moving your dragons around to get things, to blow up other people's stuff, and to teleport mages to where your dragons are, and do all sorts of fancy stuff. But And there's kind of a dogfighting aspect in this game where you're actually trying to get your dragons up behind other players' dragons and try and kill them. So I kept struggling with how to do that. I finally came up with this really, really simple mechanic. I mean, after I'd come up with probably 20 different systems, and I went through that many. I mean, I just kept designing system after system after system for movement. And I was pretty much about to pull my hair out, and I was like, well, what about just rolling dice? So I took 3 dice and I rolled them and said, okay, what happens if I have 2 dragons or 3 dragons on the board on a hex map, and I just move them, and I can basically roll dice, 3 dice, and I can choose to move 1 die forward, 1 dragon forward, a number of spaces equal to the die that I roll. Okay, it's a roll and move system. Then I said, well, okay, you have to roll, you have to move that many, whatever dice you choose. So the dice are basically an action. Each die is an action. And the thing that made the system work was a sudden realization that, okay, facing matters. So what happens if you can take any die that you choose to change the facing of a dragon, 1. So now dice basically serve 2 functions. You can use the dice to go ahead and move your dragon forward, or you can use any die to go ahead and change the facing of a dragon. And it sounds really simplistic, but it really works. Especially when you're trying to maneuver around objects and around other dragons and trying to get dragons up. Everybody that's play tested it so far said that it really captures kind of the feeling of this dynamic system of flicking where you can go anywhere, but usually you're going to get where you want to go or close, but not always. And you have to kind of figure out how you're going to get there by using the dragons, the dice.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay, well, yeah, it's a definitely interesting concept, and it's ascending empires in fantasy, but
yeah, basically.
changing the dexterity mechanic to kind of a dice-based system that seems to capture an awesome feel for what you're trying to go for. So that's pretty exciting. Is there any what's the future of this game? What are you planning? Submissions to publishers or self-publishing?
I would self-publish a small game, like the children's game that I'm working on. This is going to be a little bigger. This is actually a very large game with a lot of pieces, a lot of art. Tons of art. I mean, there's a lot of spell cards and action cards, all sorts of things in here. I don't want to deal with all that. So I'm planning on doing that through a publisher. I mean, I would like to get a publisher to do that. Children's game, I can do all the art, I can do everything myself.
All right.
And,